My guest today's creative credentials are impeccable. A specialist in holistic branding, he's worked on many highly visible brands, such as Land Rover, McLaren F1, and the energy giant BP. In the Middle East, he's been most closely linked with the Gulf Air and Burj Dubai brands. He's now set up his own agency in Dubai, and he's here to tell us why he thinks branding is so important for both businesses and consumers. John Brash, a very warm welcome to Face to Face.
Well, thank you for having me here today.
And of course your business has got a very interesting name. It's called Brash Brands. It's got an eponymous title. And if I didn't know your name really was Brash, I would have said, what a great name for a company. Does it, get a lot of impact?
It does, funnily enough. I mean, it's just curious, it's my surname, but in a way, it's brash by nature. I think part of my personality is a very full-on individual who cares passionately about what I do. So, in a way, there's a brash side of me there, which is quite funny, I think.
But you seem like a very nice guy. I've never encountered any brashness from you. But is that what clients are looking for? Are they looking for somebody to be a bit assertive?
I think so. I think the issue is there's a difference between being brash and being arrogant, and I think the important thing that clients are after is actually serious advice. I think a lot of clients all over the world, and really especially here, quite often get treated in a manner of they get played back what they actually want to hear, as opposed to what they actually need to hear to actually move their business forward.
So is that in the sense that they call in a couple of agencies and they give them what's called a brief, and then you're meant to respond to the brief, and what's happening a lot of the time is that the agencies are just telling the clients exactly what is contained in the brief?
Exactly.
When in fact, even at that early stage, you're meant to be adding value.
Absolutely. I think the whole point, when a client, when they're looking to rebrand, there tends to be a reason for it. It really isn't just a facelift. It really tends to be a business reason. It could be deregulated market, such as Do coming into the market with Etisalat having to rebrand, or if Vodafone is going to come into a market, and the local incumbents need to do something. Or from an airline perspective, it could be you're buying another 50 planes, so now is the time to do it. And I think a lot of clients, when they put briefs out, have got a specific reason. Now, when an agency gets a brief, it really is determining, do you want to play back exactly what the client wants to hear, or really do you look at what the main reason could be for that brand to be created, the point of differentiation, the point of relevance to the consumers? Let's take a step back and explain to our viewers some of the differences between what they will know as design and, of course, advertising agencies. It's a kind of a ubiquitous term, and the dark world of brand management. What exactly are the differences between those disciplines, if any? Well, actually, there's a lot of differences. The biggest difference really is that brand is really equals channel neutral, which means when we start working with a client, we don't actually look at the first stage whether it should be an advert on television or an advert on radio or a below the line stuff. We actually look at what the true DNA of that brand is. And brand really sits at the center of the business strategy of a company. And rather than be a bolt-on marketing department, really brand should be at the center, which means when a brand is created and we're looking at what the internal stakeholders are after and what the external stakeholders and consumers are after, we can then start advising the types of media a client should be looking to do it. And then you go to your specialist advertising agency or your specialist PR agency to actually build the story around. It's interesting what you're saying, though, because of course the advertising agency boys would have it that they're kind of at the top of the tree and brand is a subdivision, but you're saying it's absolutely the other way around. I think 20 years ago it was the other way around, because branding agencies were tending to be design agencies who would look at designing logos and maybe some applications. And advertising agencies had the planners, the very strategic guys who were looking to this. That's changed recently and over the last sort of 20 years. And it's all to do with the sort of strategy. And I think that clients now are realizing that channel neutral is the best way forward, because what will happen is a brand will be developed true to its DNA, and at that point we can then come up with some very dynamic ways to communicate that brand. Whereas advertising agencies traditionally are really looking at either the income from media spend, so they're always trying to look at creating that big advert, and then suddenly that advert has a photo shoot in New Zealand or Greenland or Brazil or all these wonderful places.
But you're not doing it for free yourself, are you?
No, no, no. I think it really is dependent on what a client's budget is. I mean, if a client's budget is quite limited or tight, then we would look at it and just say, what does that client actually want to achieve? Because you can achieve things in very simple ways, but very powerful ways. And to change companies' perceptions or consumers' perceptions, you don't need to do a TV advert to do that, because that might be not relevant. And also, if you look at the whole media world and the way that television now is just so many channels, and in the internet, and there's so many ways to communicate, that it's very difficult really to say, actually, you spend $5 million on an advert and we will get X amount of population. Now it's so affected throughout the whole sort of different types of media, it's very difficult to justify that spend nowadays.
Tell me, do you think that the market here has been well served by the advertising agency community over the last 20 years?
I think that's quite a controversial question. I think that at the start, because it's a young market, the advertising agencies were the first ones in the market and offered full services. So they would do packaging design, below-the-line advertising, TV advertising, all of that stuff in there. I think what's happened more recently, and if you look at globally, there are more specialised types of agencies. Now that is happening here in this region, that there's more and more specialist agencies coming in, offering world-class experience on these different types of industries.
And more specialised clients coming in, because arguably 20 or 25 years ago, all the specialists, all the brand managers from inside companies, from inside clients, weren't here. They were in Paris, New York, London. So has that perhaps improved, raised the bar a little bit?
Absolutely. I think you can even look in the 5 years that I've been in Dubai and in the Middle East, the standard has improved incredibly. The big advertising agencies have had to look at what's going on, and they're getting better. The smaller agencies are getting better. There's more people that are being attracted to this region. I mean, at the end of the day, our industry is quite really is about talent. And if you can attract the right talent to the region, then the whole creativity and the whole standard will go up.
Well, you say that though, but I mean, I would argue that in a market in which we seem to be locked down, in print advertising terms anyway, by property advertising, it's not really giving room for these creative geniuses who are employed by the agencies to breathe. And there also seems to be a bit of a dearth of awards going on. I mean, typically with the number of people here, you would expect them to be garnering more awards from, for example, D&AD or Cannes awards. Or would you argue that, you know, there's some creative genius on the horizon?
No, I think it's quite interesting. I mean, if you look at what we do at Brash, I mean, the most important thing that we have when we are looking for talent is to get world-class talent. But also, my belief about what we are trying to do is actually say that when someone leaves Brash Brands, they could go and work in New York or London quite easily. They will be actually moving up in their career. I think what matters to me is the quality, so therefore awards are important to us, but not at the cost of the client. I think a lot of other agencies, what's important to them is their margins. So the big communications groups that are out there have margins that are set. So they're really driven by accountants and not creatives. So I do think that the quality of the work will get better. It's getting better certainly with agencies like us coming along. But again, I think a lot of clients don't really know the difference between good work and great work. And that's probably because, again, it's an immature market that's maturing.
All right. Well, that's a very interesting point, John, and a good point at which to take a hiatus, take a short break. We'll come back in a couple of minutes with John Brash of Brash Brands. We'll talk about that and also about ethics in advertising and brand management. And we'll be back indeed after these messages. Don't go away.